What is going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this custom Nike box, I have the brand new Cosmic Speed colorway of the Zoom Vapor 16 Elite. Let's hop straight into the unboxing. Now, this boot has basically only one drawback, and that is part of the coating that they use for the actual colorway itself, which you can see here in this Nike swoosh. Now, this is a really cool custom box. They've got all sorts of Nike logoing and language all over the top here. You've got a similar vibe there with the reflective metallic Nike swoosh on that side, same on the other long side, and then here is the sizing. So of course with the Zoom Vapor 16 Elite, this is the Zoom Vapor 16 Elite SE, which stands for Special Edition. Firm ground, these are a 9 US or 10.5 in women's, a UK 8, a 27 centimeters, and a Euro 42.5. Now let's get these unboxed because I am very pumped to see them in person. Now this is a super interesting string bag. So this is like a, it almost feels like a rubber type vibe to it. It's got the same patterning embossed into this string bag as is on the cover of the box itself, and then you've got this kind of black reflective Nike logoing with the Mercurial logoing on the bottom, nothing on the backside, but it is this like really interesting translucent kind of I don't even know how to describe this. It's a very weird and sort of, I don't want to say uncomfortable feeling, but it is like a very interesting string bag. It's kind of cool that they did something a little bit different. I'm sure it will offer the same amount of utility as some of the other string bags, but an interesting thing. And I like that they did something a little bit different and a little bit more custom. Now, here we go. Let's get these unboxed. Oh my days. Yeah, wow. Holy, oh my goodness. Yeah, wow. Okay, so this is easily, these are easily an oh my days rating of 7.8 out of 10. Because they're gonna be for some people and they also aren't gonna be for some people. I like them in hand. On feet, not so much. Maybe not so much. In an all-white kit like Vinny Jr., fair enough, but in hand, these are some of the most beautiful boots, just as far as how unique it is and how unique this coating is. So you can see a couple different features of this boot that might make it a little bit interesting, not only from a colorway perspective, but also from a caveat perspective. Of course, I'm talking about this little strip or stripe right here that's got that same Mercurial logoing all over it, just like the box and the bag. And then this PVD, which we'll talk about in just a second, which is the way that the actual mechanism or the, how do you say this? The actual, the method of applying this metallic finish changes the way that this grip knit actually feels. So that's what we want to talk about today. Because other than that, this is a very standard Vapor 16 Elite. There's the left shoe. Goodness gracious. They do look pretty stunning, and the colorway itself is actually pretty awesome in my opinion. So let's get these down. We'll set that down right there. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go off screen and actually grab my normal pair of Vapor 16 Elites because I want to show you guys the difference between the two pairs of boots. If I can actually find them. Here we go. Here's the other one. Okay, perfect. So this is, of course, the Blueprint colorway, which I heard originally reviewed, and they are very, very dirty because I've been using them a bunch. I really like this football boot. I think they're awesome. So I'll throw these on camera now. So you can obviously see some of the major differences between the two boots. They are still obviously both a firm ground version of Vapor 16 with the some of the same tech specs, which we'll go over in just a second. But really the major changes happen in sort of the feeling of this grip knit. This grip knit is a lot grippier. It's very much more like what you find on the Phantom GX, whereas the special coating that they've put on this makes it almost not grippy anymore. Like it's pretty, you can kind of, let's do a sound check. So I'll just do it with the kind of my fingernails, and then I'll do it with sort of rubbing with the pads of my fingers, so you can hear the difference between the two. So here's the pads of the fingers, right? So the pads of the fingers, same thing here. You can hear it's like a lower tone, so it's very much more tactile and sticky. And then I'll do a fingernail test. Okay, versus Hear the difference? So kind of an interesting, like it's hard obviously if you don't have them in hand actually feel them, but the stickiness of this normal colorway is a lot more substantial than the stickiness of this one. So I guess if you're right out of the box, if you're somebody who's like, oh, I really like the Vapor 16 and how good it feels, but I don't really like the stickiness of the grip knit, this colorway would actually be perfect because that PVD coating actually covers a lot of the grip elements of the grip knit itself. So without further ado, let's get into quick tech specs of this Vapor 16 Elite, and then we'll talk about the PVD, which I've now mentioned a couple times, which is the way that they coat it. So from a colorway perspective, like the Dream Speed series before, that Nike had with CR7 and a couple other of their players, Mbappe, etc. This is the Cosmic Speed colorway. So this is kind of a new line celebrating the speed and some of the fastest players in the world. Players like Vinny Jr., Lauren James, Sam Kerr. Now, these boots, yes, are being worn by the likes of Vinny Jr. and a couple other of the men's players, but I'm pretty sure that the Cosmic Speed pack is really to celebrate the female athletes, like the fastest female footballers in the world, which is very cool. And especially in this colorway, I think it's going to look really, really great on pitch in particular, like with particular colors of kits, etc. So from a tech perspective, this is obviously the exact same Vapor 16. You have the fly knit through this lacing system area here. You've got atom knit basically from this metallic seam backwards. So it's a triple layer as opposed to a 5 layer. So they've actually reduced layers compared to the grip, to the fly knit in the past. So it's atom knit is basically the thinnest fly knit they've ever produced. And then from this seam here and that seam there, all the way forward in and around, kind of this rainbow metallic textured look is all of the grip knit, which of course comes from the original grip knit, actually was back in the original Flyknit Ultra, how would you say, the prototyping of the grip knit was back in the Flyknit Ultra, which I have back here. And then we saw it in production properly with the GX1. This grip knit is basically the same as the upper of the GX1 and GX2, although GX2 obviously has all those ridges and stuff in it as well. So very, very similar, obviously the same as the Blueprint pack colorway. So if you want more in-depth tech specs, you can always head to that video as well. The zoom unit remains the same as well, with this 3/4 length zoom unit here with all of the chevron studs, and then here through the midfoot you have, or through the spine of the foot if you will, you have these wave studs which make a really nice amount of snapback, and also I think just under your foot give you a much more balanced feeling compared to the previous generation. I actually tend to prefer this type of stud pattern as opposed to those star-shaped studs that were on the Vapor 15 Elite, which of course introduced the Air Zoom to the market, but this is definitely a better sole plate and definitely a more mercurial-esque sole plate in my opinion. Now from the color, so this is what's called color spectrum effect, and it's called the PVD, which is the physical vapor deposition. So basically what that means is it's a vacuum style method of applying the thin metallic colorways to fabric in general. That's a very general description of it, but basically what that means is that they're able to vacuum seal any type of colorway that would otherwise be incredibly difficult to apply to a fabric like a knit material. So think atom knit, grip knit, etc. Anything that's on here. What's really cool about this is I imagine that this is a very similar technology that they're probably going to start using for metallic finishes on clothing. So things like kits or apparel or anything else that's related to taking colors that otherwise wouldn't really show up that well or true to color on a garment or on maybe a running shoe from Nike, basketball shoes. Like there's a whole host of different things that this PVD or this physical vapor deposition can really help with as far as the application of the color to the product, which is pretty cool. That being said, again, as I said in the beginning of this video, the trade-off is that this color is probably a little bit thicker, like the metallic itself is quite a lot thicker than some of the other non-treated grip knit. And so yes, you're still going to have the same or a similar amount of softness. It's definitely, I would say, not as kind of silky smooth as the normal colorways, particularly here in the forefoot where you have this strip, which is a really interesting from a, I don't know, from like a look perspective as well, because this is not grippy at all. That's just like a complete overlay, like another piece of material that just comes over the grip knit. So that's an interesting choice from Nike. I do like the design. I think it is kind of unique and fun. That being said, I do think if they took this off, I think people would be also super happy, and it would be like a full kind of rainbow metallic style finish. So just from the standpoint of actual utility of the upper, it's not going to give you the same amount of bite and grip as the normal colorways will, but I assume that for those of you who are looking for a boot that's the Vapor 16, or in the case of the Superfly, obviously it just has a little bit of collar with no effect on, or no changes, I guess, on the bottom half of the boot where you actually strike the ball. That's going to give you a little bit less grip than, of course, some of the other colorways. So just something to consider as you move forward. Now, this is also one of those boots that I just think is a very well executed speed boot. Right now, in my opinion, this is probably the strongest the speed boot market has been across all the brands ever. In my opinion, this is like the golden era of speed boots. You have things like the F50 line, which is amazing, especially the Messi edition with the hybrid touch. You have the new Sokito Scudetto, which is a great option for a lot of people. You have DS Lite X-Fly Pro 2 from Asics, so amazing stuff there. Mizuno's got their Alpha, which of course is one of the most insane speed boots, and it's been out for a really long time. And the Skechers Razor, which is awesome as well. So you have all these different options on the market, which pretty much should cover most people. So if you want to get into a speed boot, definitely consider it. Now, should you buy the Vapor 16 Elite, this is a boot that's probably meant for people with medium, wider feet shapes like me can fit in them. The case in point, I have broken these in already. 1 month review will be coming soon for these. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, and they fit really, really well with no issues at all. So wider foot shapes should be able to fit in the Vapor 16. The only thing I would say with this particular colorway that you have to be careful of is because the metallic coating is a little bit thicker, you're going to have less break-in than, or more break-in, but less ability to break in than the normal colorways. The reason for that is the thicker the coating on top of the actual grip knit and atom knit, the less likely it is to stretch, and the less it'll stretch, period, right? So that's something to consider as well. If you're somebody who really needs that extra little bit of width, I would say probably stay away from this particular colorway. But of course, you can get other really dope colorways that they have, and in the future they'll come out with as well. So without further ado, guys, let's hop into, give you one last look of the boots. Really nice, honestly. We'll hop into the backyard and we'll do the on-feet portion of the video. I might bring out the other Vapor 16s as well, just to do a side-by-side comparison of kind of the general width and shape. Obviously, these ones haven't been broken in yet, so take that with a grain of salt, but it might be interesting to kind of see the differences in how they actually fit from a shaping perspective, given that the coating on this particular colorway is just slightly thicker and will probably be a little bit more tedious to break in, which, by the way, reminds me, now that you guys are here and watching, this boot will not get a play test or a 1 month review because we're going to have it in this, and this is one of those colorways that I want sitting, maybe not in front of the Trent boots, but maybe in front of the Tony Cruz boots, or I don't know, something. They'll be somewhere around here on display, because I just think this colorway is really, really cool. So, and of course you'll get a Vapor 16 playtest, which already happened, and 1 month review as well. So without further ado, let's hop into it. All right, guys, out here in the backyard with the Vapor Cosmic Speed, I do have the right shoe of my already broken in pair of Blueprint Vapor 16s. Those I will try on like as a comparison once I get these on feet. And so let's hop straight into it. I think these look absolutely stunning in the sunlight. The natural light hitting this kind of iridescent surface is just ridiculous. So how cool is that? I do have a pair of WeFoot grip socks on right now. You guys can find a discount code for my favorite grip socks down in the description box below. 20% off using code NOAH20. Here we go. Getting them straight on feet, and I'm honestly just expecting these to fit exactly like, yep, a Vapor 16. which is really, really well. This has a lovely amount of natural stretch to the upper. The sole plate feels really good underfoot, and you have plenty of both structure and stretch to this lacing system area, so I can kind of make it a little bit wider. And as you can see, really nice and soft, fits perfectly true to size in my 9 US, and no complaints there really. They fit fantastically well. I love the Vapor 16. I think it's such a good football boot. Maybe not my favorite sole plate, just because Air Zoom still, despite me testing it quite a bit, still isn't my favorite, but I do think it does have a nice amount of pop to it, and it's definitely a unique sensation. So it's one of those things, it's one of those technologies that I appreciate very much, but is it my go-to? Not usually. So if they made a Vapor that still had the same stud layout, but without the Air Zoom, I think I would probably prefer that a little bit more. But again, we're kind of splitting hairs here at the end of the day. On feet, the boots look pretty good. I like the look of them. They definitely look better with white socks than they would with black socks, I think. I just think white socks in general, regardless of what the actual color of the boots is, makes the boots stand out quite a bit more than normal. So here's a full look at what the Vapor 16 Cosmic Speed look like. What do you guys think with a full black kit, white socks, and then the boots? I do think they look pretty good. I do like the way that they kind of shine, especially outdoors. Although I will say I kind of like them better in hand, like up close and personal rather than on feet. I don't know, maybe that's just a little personal thing, but yeah, they feel pretty good. Very, very standard for Vapor 16. They feel slightly tighter in that forefoot area. So where that stripe kind of comes around, that's particularly where my feet are quite wide. If you take a look at the comparison between the right shoe here and the right shoe there, see how much wider, since I've already broken these in, this really stretches here in that area. And so the difference between the two, as you can see, obviously these aren't broken in yet, but the idea is that because of that little stripe or strip of material with the patterning on it, it's not going to be quite as stretch friendly in the forefoot area. So potentially that's something to consider if you're looking at a pair of Vapor 16s. Now, from a touch perspective, yeah, pretty much the same. I would say that really the only thing that I think I'm going to notice from a playing perspective is the grip on the ball, because right now as I'm juggling, whether it's the GX, whether it's the Vapor 16 without the metallic finish on it, it's pretty easy to tell that you have that extra little bit of grip, because it's all in the, you know, the little like spin movements like that with the football. And so on this one, it still has more grip than the normal pair of football boot, like any random other pair of football boots. Take Nike's Tiempo for instance. We'll stay, for instance, stay within the brand. So if you go Tiempo and you go this version of the Vapor, these ones are going to have, yes, more grip than the Tiempo will, but not as much as the normal colorway or the GX. So that's just kind of a little tier list for you. But touch on the ball for the Vapor 16 is wonderful. It feels awesome on foot. I love that there's no kind of distractions across the upper. And so regardless of where you're contacting the ball, it's kind of one seamless sensation all around, which gives just a really nice kind of play as you're either touching the ball inside, outside, pushing it with your lacing system. It really does feel kind of very cohesive all around, which is really, really good. On top of the fact that these miter balls are amazing. So that's kind of another thing. So that's obviously a great, these balls have a tiny bit of grip to them as well, and so they really, really knuckle and spin really well. So that obviously, that combination helps a lot. But overall, I think these do a fantastic job of wrapping your foot really well, giving you that seamless and very barefoot feeling. The sole plate is a sole plate that I definitely wouldn't go on AG with this particular FG stud pattern, particularly in the forefoot with those chevron studs and the wave type pattern. Although the wave type pattern really does function well on AG as well as FG surfaces, but I do think that that forefoot needs a little bit less aggressive studs like on the AG model to actually for me to recommend you play on AG with those. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. What else do we want to talk about? I guess we could do a comparison between these two, but realistically, you guys kind of saw side by side how much more broken in these are. These hopefully will stretch for most people to as much as you need it to, but I wouldn't guarantee it. So that's one thing that when you're considering purchasing a pair of these, especially the special editions that are a little bit more expensive, just be aware that with certain special edition colorways, you're gonna get slightly different. I mean, we're talking like less than 5%, but these types of things for a wide-footed player like myself do matter. And so just be cautious that at the end of the day, this is the kind of the, I don't know, the way that it goes from a stretch perspective. So if you have a wider foot and you want the Vapors, go with a normal colorway. And if you don't have a super wide foot, if you have sort of a standard or even a narrow foot, you'll be totally fine getting into a pair of these. And Nike, as of the filming of today's video, which is the Monday, the 23rd of September, they should be released today. I looked on the Nike website and they hadn't dropped yet, but I know other, places like Ultra has them, Unisport Pro Direct, all that stuff. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up today's video of the Vapor 16 Cosmic Speed. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of this new colorway, what you think of the new line. I think it's really cool. I like this PVD. I think it adds something a little bit different. You're not getting flat colorways anymore, so we'll get a lot of really rich metallic colorways, which is super cool. So one last look at the boots. Very, very cool looking on feet, and definitely a boot that I would recommend if you are interested in any sort of high-end speed boot. This is definitely one to consider. It is easily up there for boot of the year for me, and I think it is going to be for a lot of people. If you guys are interested in a playtest, I will leave the playtest link somewhere right in this area. Subscribe to the channel right there if you haven't already. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.